poetry. I recite poetry. So I sing like a poet, smile like a poet, sing like a poet, stand like a poet, walk like a poet, move like a poet, rap like a poet. Moving towards that in South Africa, that we are building our own literature. So anywhere where you go, you will always find books in the street. Nobody will steal. So we should be really achieving that. When we really say we are building our literature and we want to encourage a culture of reading and writing, why can't you just copy what the Iranians are doing? And then South Africa becomes like a reading nation. Because this is what we are battling off. I mean, you get a learner there in grade 7, the learner can't read, which is a problem. Because if you can't read, you won't understand the content of whatever that is there. So it becomes a problem for me that we as South Africans, our literature is not growing and we are not going any far. There are books that have been published so much, they publish this and this and this, but really, what books are really talking to yourself as an African? We have the generation of the Caribbean writers, we have your Soweto poets, they have written so many things that really were close to themselves. But nowadays, it becomes a problem. So the expectation is to say this guy is going to talk much about indigenous writing, Johnny. Me, I don't know that. I have battles with that to say how do I tell people this is indigenous writing? And I look at the word itself, what does indigenous means, and it says to me, indigenous is a literature. It's a literature piece written by an indigenous person. Their work about traditions, their relationship to nature, and the experience injustice. This is what I thought. But at first, I was caught between these two things. Is it indigenous language? Vernacular. Oh, what is it? I was like, no, let me first define the word vernacular itself. Isn't vernacular a colloquial speech? It is, right? So, but what is indigenous language? This is what I want us to have today. Don't expect anything from me. A cup of wisdom is never full. I'm here to learn as well. So let's really unpack what is indigenous language. Let's just share. Yes, my sister.
From my understanding of the word indigenous, it is something that's from a foreign land. So I'm also raising a question or also stating something from my understanding. From my understanding, indigenous language is a language that is not established in where you are based in your homeland. So my question is, why is English not an indigenous language, but languages like isiXhosa, Setswana, Xitsonga, Tshivenda, why are they referred to as indigenous languages in our country where they are based?
Yes, you share your thoughts. That's exactly what I was making about saying. What I'm going to tell you. Yes,
for me, I would say indigenous, it's sort of different people. It has its own backgrounds on this one, that one, and that one, which at the end of the day creates a nation as one. That indigenous, that's all I have to say.
Any thoughts?
So I would say it's a broad subject rather to sort of dwell into. However, I love using the word car, and I would love to believe that that's how I would explain indigenous or something indigenous to someone who has a question. Understand? Because Fifi raised a very important question. If English is not an indigenous language, but yet it does not derive from our homeland, then why are ours why our languages not referred to as that? My mind is all over the place. So I'd love to say it's having a core intact, understand, writing from originality, writing from perspective of this is where the brainchild comes from, where it derives from. So I would say indigenous writing is writing from a point of view that is original, where you're not, how do I put it? I guess running. ke tswe mo puong e senyaka.
Yeah.
Ga bona yang tshikela join the people. So ke tla re o itse serodumo sa gago ga o kwala. So serodumo so o se tshwereng mo puong ya gago o bua le ga o kwala. That is indigenous. Gore o mang o tswa kae. That is the point of view that you're writing from. That is indigenous. It's original, it's raw. Your item is the raw materials. It's unprocessed. So ga gona sejatlhapi se se tlang re se dirisa se re tshikela mo tseleng ke puo e tlhapileng go ya lolololo.
My take would be for us to be able to define any word first of all, before we can give some sort of expression, we need to understand the originality, where it comes from. Because definitions become so contaminated the further we move from it. So we need to find the root of what it is actually before we can even define what it is. When we speak of indigenous, already we have a cultural perspective from not just as black people, but even as black people we have our cultures within. So when we speak of indigenous, we then put that all the tribes in one section and say this, we refer those two as the indigenous languages, because of even as black people we speak different languages, so that makes us indigenous. So when you speak of native, then it means that we speak of maybe foreign people. So for us, for me, indigenous has to do with it has to come from a cultural perspective.
Can I add my 2 cents to it? It's something that's related to a specific place. Like they say, culture, whatever, food, whatever. English would be indigenous in England, right? Botswana is indigenous in another Botswana, or let's say. So it's plants can be indigenous as well, because it's something that's specific to a territory. In short.
Any thought? Any thought? I'm liking the point that you are raising. English can be indigenous in England. Eh? I'm loving that one. We have that writer called Geoffrey Chaucer. He's the one who coined the concept of the United States of America, the one that we know. He was from England. But now, here's the trick. He wrote in indigenous language, which is their indigenous language, which is English. But he was never celebrated. We celebrated Shakespeare. So now in South Africa, we don't have our own Shakespeare. But we have so many Shakespeareans in South Africa, which is a beautiful thing. You have your writers like D.P. Monaisi, who wrote that book called Bokhosi Kupe. And then he also wrote Maka Musari Moka. And we have another old Shakespearean, which is, I forgot the writer who wrote Umkolo Pandle, which is a prosa literature. That's a beautiful piece of art that I've seen. So now, I happen to read so many books that are in Setswana, because I speak Setswana, like that's maybe my competency, and I'm a good command in Setswana. So what I found most in this writing is people will make use of proverbs, they will make use of idioms, they will make use of riddles. And then you say, what? Why do you have to use them if they do not support what you are saying, or if they don't add value in the subject matter that you are having? Why do you have to use them casually? So it's very much imperative for one to understand a particular language that you are writing in it. Don't just write to say, no, this is the beauty of language, but where's the way? Does it complement what you're saying? Does it make sense? So we must really shy away from that and become more creative and say, this is how I write. So me, I'm just going to give you the tips of what I've learned about indigenous language, or how you write in indigenous language. So I have 3, which I think there are 4, yes. First thing is a message. What are you really trying to convey when you really have to write in indigenous language or indigenous, let's say creative writing? The first one is message. What are you saying to us? And then the second one will be the image. Give us an image of what you are saying to us so that we get an image while we are reading whatever that you have written. Can you get a sound? Which will be the third one. It's the sound in your writing. Because we believe in as Africans, there's always sound. We are people of rhythm. In your writing, there should be sound. When you are reading, say, I mean that sound. That's the flow of your writing. The fourth one will be the feeling. Can you feel what you are saying? Can you relate to what you are writing? Do you have a feeling to what you are writing? And these 4 elements, you can use them anywhere, whether it's prose or poetry, or it's film or whatever. In a form of any form of writing, you can use these 4 elements, which is your image, your message, your sound, and the feeling. If me as a reader, I don't get that from you, then I'm like, it doesn't come around to me. So now, as a writer, in indigenous language, we have 3 voices. The first voice of a writer, they speak to themselves. That's the first voice of a writer, they speak to themselves. The second one, they share and speak their beliefs and their principles. And the third one now is the voice of a character. So as a writer, you have 3 voices as a writer. The first one, they speak to themselves. The second one, they share and speak their beliefs and their principles. The third one, it's a voice of the character.